so loved the world, that he gave his only
Son,
that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life.
What is up, peoples? I hope all is well. Today in my quiet time, I did Proverbs 13, verses 15 through 18. And the one verse that stood out to me today is verse 15. Good understanding gains favor, but the way of the unfaithful is hard. So this immediately reminded me of the conversations I've been having lately with people. And I take the approach of listening like 90% of the time and responding only 10% of the time. But I usually respond in questions before giving what I think about the situation, because I think that arguments or anything that's bad that's going to come out of a conversation, it only comes from a misunderstanding. That's most part of it. It just comes from a misunderstanding. So if you eliminate that misunderstanding, you have more fruitful conversations with people. So I just basically ask, like, what do you mean by that? Or can you tell me more, to really try to get a good understanding? And then after that, I'm like, well, how did you come to knowing that? Or how did you come to that conclusion? And they give me the logic, the reasoning, the evidence, whatever you want to call it, behind the things that they think. And like, that just gives me a really good foundation to move that conversation along. And it also opens up the door of them asking me the exact same things, like, what do I believe and why do I believe? And like, that's like a really, really good conversation to have. So if you want to do that with people, by all means, do it, but always be the first one to listen. But Proverbs 15, good understanding gains favor. And that is so true, especially what I've been through recently with conversations. Having that good understanding, they do favor me. Favor means like having good regard or high regard for a person. So they do favor me. They do look at me in a good light. And it also, again, opens up the door to me sharing my ideas, which is awesome. And then, but the way of the unfaithful is hard. Now, I didn't have trouble with this verse, but understanding this part of the verse, it took a little bit more time, because I'm like, what does being unfaithful have to do with anything? But the word unfaithful, it generally means, in the context of Proverbs, it generally means not being faithful. And not being faithful to what? Not being faithful to God. And when you're not faithful to God, you're basically sinning. You're violating God's purpose for us to love. So when we are unfaithful, we're selfish. And when we're selfish, we're not going to seek that good understanding. So we're not going to be the first ones to listen. We're not going to be the ones that care about what other people think and why they think what they think. But we only want to talk about ourselves. And what does that lead us? An example of conversation, it leads to a horrible conversation. It leads to shouting over one another. It leads to absolutely nowhere but even more hatred. So the way of the unfaithful is hard. Being selfish is hard. It's hard because it generates bad consequences. So that is difficult. It's much easier just to listen to one another and to respectfully share ideas and ask edifying questions and deeper questions to better understand another person. And like, that speaks to the heart. It really does. So that's what I've got out of Proverbs 13 today. That's what God has laid on my heart and spoke to me about. So I hope that resonated with you, and I'll see you later. Love you.